one of the nutritionists there came to be my babysitter, which was the best thing in the world. She used to make these types of foods in her house. Like she'd make homemade yogurt because she actually had 10 children. She birthed 10 children. So when she was with me, she would make some foods that she could take home. But her name's Becky, and I still love her to the day. She was a true godsend. But she showed me how you can make a lot of these foods and do it on a budget too. But
So
also putting it together.
let's just spend like 5 last minutes going through
Yeah.
each of these items, and I'll ask you two questions. One, what makes what I used potentially superior to what another option that may be more common that perhaps changes the dynamic entirely of this meal? Okay, so like,
Okay.
right?
Well, the first one I definitely think is people getting just completely angry leprechaun white bread.
Yep.
Okay. So white bread removes the germ and the bran. The outside of the grain is going to be your bran, and that's where the fiber sources are. And then the inside is this germ, and that's where all the nutrients are.
So wheat, when we're talking about wheat, that goes
Yes.
into making.
Yeah. So if you're just eating white toast, you truly are just getting angry leprechaun. There is no value to that bread.
And that's the enriched white flour, correct?
Correct.
When you see that.
So you want to look for the words whole 100% to make sure you're getting all three parts, because they really truly are two completely different things. One is going to have nutrition and help reduce inflammation, and one is going to increase it.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. Also in the way of cottage cheese. So
what about gluten? Let's just very quickly hit on gluten, because people run for the hills with bread in general, and so many people believe that they're gluten-free or they're gluten intolerant, and when in fact a lot of times they'll say, well, I went overseas, I had sourdough bread, I was fine.
Yes.
What is that, your thought on that?
70% of Americans are dealing with a digestive disorder from a lack of fiber.
There you go.
So, therefore, if you have a diminished gut microbiome, or you have gut dysbiosis, you're going to have an issue with gluten. Okay. So it will cause some inflammation, because when we eat those white breads, a lot of those foods they have added gluten, and gluten breaks down in your stomach. And if you eat more gluten than the body is normally used to having, it actually will go into the intestine, causing inflammation and getting into that bloodstream. And that's called leaky gut and all of that. Okay. So all these terms really are real. It is true. People can have gluten sensitivity. Now with sourdough, with that fermentation, it breaks down that grain, and so it can be more easily digested. But by switching over to a higher fiber diet, you can truly build back up your gut biome and be able to have gluten again. So really interesting there. Celiac, completely different. That's an autoimmune disease.
Right.
You cannot have any gluten, not a crumb, not a nothing.
Right. Can't even touch it. So, okay. So we've got the sourdough, and then the sourdough is it a better choice because I've paired it with something here, or on its own, it's okay?
Yes. When you pair carbohydrates with protein, it will reduce the amount of that glucose spike. Okay. So we want to keep that down. We want to keep it down so that it doesn't trigger so much insulin coming in and all of that insulin resistance. So by pairing that protein with it, and also you're adding in the pears and the dates, that also is a fiber source. All of that in combination will keep that glucose stable. And
how about the cashew butter? How about the pumpkin?
So those are going to add in some. So the cashew butter will add in a little bit of that good fat, and I want to talk about that with the cottage cheese. So when we say good fat, we're talking about mono and polyunsaturated fat. These are fats that come from plants, that come from nuts, that come from our avocados, that come from our olive oil. So we want to make sure we're getting fat there. You need fat to absorb those fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. So you need to make sure you are getting fat. But the fat that comes in our dairy is saturated fat. So we want to reduce that, because that will cause inflammation as well. So I see you have like the 2%. So make sure you go 2% or less, because we do want fat in our diet, but not from our saturated sources.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and of course, you know how hard it is. Like, I thought I had won the lottery when I got to the store and they had the Good Culture cottage cheese on the shelf. Like,
yes.
And it wasn't just the whole milk. I was like,
yeah,
oh my gosh. Like, I feel like I need to buy a case.
go this, go that. I'm like, no, you don't understand. So like farmers would let the milk sit. The fat would rise. They would skim, hence skimmed milk. They would
Yeah.
skim off the top and use that for whipping cream and butter. No one was drinking homogenized whole milk. No one, no one, no one. So that's where understanding that we are not like going backwards. We're just understanding that too much saturated fat will cause inflammation, the same as those angry leprechauns. So
Okay. And then, so the pumpkin, thoughts on the pumpkin?
So the pumpkin is going to have, again, those powerful antioxidants like vitamin A. Anything that is in that bright color, that orange, the reds, is going to have that powerful antioxidant. That's important for PCOS, and it's important for everyone because that is a powerful antioxidant that neutralizes these nasty little free radicals, and that can knock into cells, causing cell damage, like you were talking about. So by getting in the colors of the rainbow, that's going to ensure that you're getting those antioxidants and truly being able to neutralize those free radicals and get them out of the body.
And then how about the figs and the pears?
So figs and pears, once again, are going to have that antioxidant as well and that fiber source. So you're
And
going to get both from there, and you're getting that vitamin C. That's another powerful antioxidant.
rosemary, does that add anything other than
It
just flavor?
does. It does. So all of our herbs and spices are going to have an element of rosemary in particular has a great element of antidepressant, anti-inflammatory. So being able to add in, basil, rosemary, thyme, oregano, all of those are going to have beneficial value and
And
flavor.
oh
Flavor.
yeah. Well, it did. It added this like very fall, flavor. And then how about so I tend to try not to sweeten my stuff. Like when I bake food, like if I bake apples or I bake fruits, I try not to sweeten it at all. But I do have other people that live in my house. So I have to balance it. But I have come to, and I've been making my own. I don't. It's not kombucha, but it's called kefir water because I don't want the tea. But it's
Uh-huh.
a fermented water, and I've been using the same thing, which is coconut sugar. So coconut sugar versus white sugar. Any thoughts on that?
I don't know, but I always go in the direction. I love using cinnamon and or vanilla. I think
Yes.
those two things add in so much flavor and that kind of natural sweetness without adding in sugar.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And then the honey on top, I actually do not need the honey for sweetness on this, just to point out. So this is probably about a half a teaspoon in total that I drizzled of this superfood. But again, I did it for the royal jelly, superfood aspect of the honey
Yeah.
and not for the sweetness. And then how about so I guess what do you think of honey in general?
I remember when I first did clinical rotations, and this woman who was like 98 years old looked unbelievable. And I said, "What's your secret?" And she said, "I have 2 tablespoons of honey every day." And I'm sure it was a lot of other things in combination. I'm sure it wasn't just the honey, but I think there is something to it, especially local honey, like you're saying, with like the local pollen and the bees. And there's just so many antibacterial properties to honey. There's a lot of good, a lot of good. So I think it's interesting that that has stuck with me all
That
of these
is.
years. But she just like looked incredible. You would see people like in their 60s or 70s that looked awful, and this woman
And
was
it,
just glowing. And I'm like, what do you do? What
That's
you
who
know?
us. Okay, Kelly, we're making a pact right here, right now. We will be eating our 2 teaspoons of honey
Honey?
so that we will continue to be like
Yes.
superhuman power.
Yeah, yeah. I just thought that was funny that that's what
It
she,
is
she,
funny.
you know. But that's where, yeah, you did a great job in combination. And I think, again, it is the combination. It
How about
is.
nutmeg? And then I won't ask you
Oh, yeah,
anymore.
nutmeg's fantastic. So I was really lucky. This crazy story. I got to go to the original spice whole mill in India, where all the spices from all over the world come into this one place. It's in Old Delhi. It was like going on to a movie set. I've never seen anything crazier in my life. But there was cinnamons and nutmegs and all the turmeric and like I mean just so much coming into one place, and it was crazy. There's so much smoke in the air from all of the spices just
I
all
can't
over the
even
place.
imagine.
It was wild, wild. And so, there we were talking about how these, again, herbs and spices are so, so important in the diet to bringing out flavors, to making you feel satisfied, kind of giving you that taste profile, so that you feel like yum, like
And
this.
there's also a lot of medicinal qualities. I mean, we used to
Yeah,
rely on spices and herbs and plants as our
right,
medicine until we hit the 20th century. So
right.
it's, anyways. Well, this will be the first edition. We'll have to
I
do
love
a
it.
breakfast. We'll do breakfast with Ellen and Kelly.
I
And
love
but you know what I want to do is this has given me the idea when I see Emily of Morrissey Market, we're going to have breakfast on Thursday morning in Boston. And I am going to tell her that I want to do boxes where we can actually, and then I'll talk with Lori from Plant Strong, and we'll do something fun like this where we highlight, like, basically people can
yes.
order the
Yeah,
food that we have in the picture,
that's
or
right.
some of it, and then we can talk about like how we put it together and make it fun.
That is perfect.
Okay, I
I'm
love
gonna go
it.
get my dog who's barking her head off.
Okay, bye, Kelly.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Okay, bye.